Microdosing for anxiety. Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is coming from D2430 off Earwood. When this happened, 2015. The drug used was tabernate Iboga at a dose of 300 milligrams and 150 milligrams. The route of administration, orally, gender, male, weight, 110 kilograms, age, 34, prior experience, DMT, Syrian rue, Blue Lotus, and Zoloft. His set, he is in a rough spot with his partner, and a setting, home, the park, and work. Okay, so today, we introduced tabernate Iboga, a somewhat well-known powerful psychedelic native to Africa. Now recently, we did do an Iboga trip report on the Patreon that you can check out, which we haven't had one yet on the channel, so here we are to bring a report to officially introduce it. We have done Ibogaine before in a couple reports, but Ibogaine and Iboga do differ technically. While Ibogaine is the main active alkaloid in Iboga, Iboga contains a handful of other alkaloids that may be active in playing a role in the experience. Ibogaine also has been found in other plants as well, other than Iboga. So this report will better highlight Iboga itself. One thing about Iboga is its medicinal potential to cure addiction, specifically helping one with opiate withdrawal. This report here shows it more as a mood booster, its potential effects on depression, and how D2430 found clarity and ease with it. But we'll break this down more after the report and get a better understanding of Iboga, how it works, and the experience itself. I'm sure you'll enjoy this, so without further ado, let's dive right into it. Some background. At 34, I have been suffering anxiety/depression for nearly 20 years. As an adult, it's had a negative effect on my emotional connection and response in relationships, summarized by me basically ruining relationships by becoming untenable as a partner through shitty behavior, lack of trust, and showing sadness as anger. Due to some serious emotional trauma during a custody battle with my ex-partner, I started looking at alternatives to the norm after the doctor tried to offer me Zoloft yet again. Anyway, 2.5 years later, I have experimented with DMT, self-sourced from local acacia, Syrian rue, Blue Lotus, etc., etc. I am not someone you would expect to be interested in hallucinogens, so please excuse my report if tedious or naive. Anyway, so after some reading, I managed to source some Iboga, TA powder, and also a pack of 35 300 milligram capsules. The idea being to microdose the capsules for a short while, then flood dose with a short maintenance period afterwards. I finally got a day to myself last week. My girlfriend was at work and I did not have my son for 2 days. I was in a reasonably anxious mood, where I could feel that the slightest antagonism might kick off an argument with my partner, knowing full well it was on my own head that would cause it. I literally stomped down to the kitchen, took a pill, and chucked it back, saying a little prayer to myself that I might find some guidance. I add at this point, I have done a lot of reading and communicating with people who know what they are doing. I didn't unwittingly swallow this pill without expecting the side effects. Anyway, so I sat on my couch for an hour playing PS4 and realized the day was getting away. So went down to my garage gym to do my daily workout. I distinctly remember that about 90 minutes after the pill, I started feeling detached. I can't really explain it. You know when you stare at something and can't take your gaze away, but your brain is still 100% active/analytical? Well, that's what it felt like. In the middle of some press-ups, I noticed my visuals were altered. I want to say sheer clarity, but also the color of the yoga mat became super bright. I felt myself sink to my stomach and just stare at the mat, my face inches from it, and getting some real enjoyment from shifting perspective from the mat out to the open garage about 10 yards away, which at this point was open and the sun was out. It was like the outside was so bright, I couldn't possibly walk out to the sun. I pushed through my exercise, still 100% aware of what I was doing. I felt safe, but the detachment grew. It was almost like I was observing myself, my movements, while I was still completely in control. I went about my day in as best way as possible. When I am on Zoloft, I feel flat. With the Iboga, I did not feel flat, but removed from myself. When my girlfriend came home, we had some discussions that would normally have put me into an anxious mood, likely leading to an argument. I could acknowledge I didn't like the subject, and I can acknowledge which part of my body it came from, stomach, but it was like my heart, was pulled away from it and wouldn't react. I was over the moon. I decided to wait until the next day and take another. Whilst the initial feelings of anxiety were nowhere near present, the feeling of detachment returned. I could still function, but this time I almost felt lazy, like I could move around, go to the shops, etc., but really would just rather sit and think. So that's what I did. Luckily, my partner is very supportive of my journey, so I went down for a walk around the park. I sat watching kids play soccer for nearly 2 hours, and I suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to see my son. I haven't cried in years. I mean years, but I could feel it welling up in me. I all of a sudden felt so proud of my son, even though he is just 2. I continued to walk and said hello to people, sat to pet dogs, etc., etc. Nothing trippy in the visuals at all, and really felt on top of the world. I still feel lazy, but my interactions were giving me so much pleasure. That second night, my dreams were insane. I can't really repeat them because they were very personal, but let's just say I was speaking to dead people, not necessarily people I knew, just people that were obviously not of this world anymore, and it was a really pleasant experience. Since then, because I am back at work, I have been taking half, so 150 milligrams of the powder, every 3 to 4 days. I have certainly felt my own anxiety creeping, but generally, it's gone. For the first time in 7 months, I haven't argued with my girlfriend for weeks. Because I work away, it adds strain on our relationship, and this time, nothing. I am looking forward to getting back to the flood dose when I can find 48 hours where no one needs me. Okay, so the infamous Iboga root bark. We won't go crazy deep with this one because there's just so much to cover with it, but we'll try and get most of the basics. So like I said earlier, this is native in a few countries in Central Africa, and the history of its usage has been recorded since around the 19th century from European explorers, which because of this, it is likely that the usage of this plant has been going on far longer than this among African natives. Not only was it found to be used ritualistically, but also it has been found to have casual usage as a tool. Often warriors, hunters, night watchers, and whatnot would take a small amount of Iboga, and by doing so, it's expected one will receive stimulant and aphrodisiac effects that could help aid in their jobs. So today's microdose account is by far not the first or only one. The main thing with today's report is that it included what is called Iboga TA, or Iboga total alkaloid. Now it is considered toxic if you were just to consume the plant straight up fresh. For a microdose, it would be common to simply chew a bit of the root bark, possibly ingesting a little. Iboga TA, on the other hand, is a prepared extract. Now tribes may commonly also prepare an extract for ceremonies and rituals, as a powdered version is more easily ingested for higher doses. But we can see well from today's report that microdosing can be effective with Iboga, not necessarily as a stimulant or aphrodisiac in this report, but as a mood enhancer, a focus enhancer, as stress relief, and as a way that brought clarity to D2430's mind. And microdosing like this may be a very applicable option for someone, given that they have the option to. But Iboga is far from being a perfect drug. We see the complications arise much more frequently once we get into higher doses. And not necessarily strong doses either. Common doses have shown to also be potentially dangerous. Now in a trip dose or medicinal dose, you're going to end up in a trip that will last 2 to 3 days most likely. The experience itself is often noted to be very strong on a life-changing type of level. It is common for those who use it like this to end up laying down while submerged in the experience. Closed-eye visuals can be very common. An ego death may easily occur. You can end up in a lucid dream-like state, and the experience tends to be very spiritual and personal to your life. It's often remarked that the Iboga experience can bring you back to certain moments in your life for reflection, or it can give you the perception of seeing your ancestors and others beyond this world. Throughout the experience, it is likely to go through all kinds of emotions like you would on any trip, though due to the physical impact Iboga can have, it may be likely you end up in a rough area. You can end up very nauseous and feel sick the whole time. You can have anxiety and paranoia. You can have bodily tremors, or because of how long it lasts, it is likely you'll experience a degree of insomnia. On top of this, Iboga, specifically Ibogaine, has been found to be physically risky, especially for those with conditions or when it's in combination. Now, Ibogaine itself has impact on heart rate and can be cardiotoxic. Specifically, bradycardia can come up, which is the slowing of the heart rate. There may also be QT prolongations or irregular heartbeats that arise, putting those with heart issues especially at risk here. There's also some research out there that may suggest it may influence the risk of seizures and respiratory depression. Now, because of all this risk that can pop up, it is recommended to ingest Ibogaine over Iboga. Iboga can have varying amounts of alkaloids per plant, so while you may dose appropriately, you'll never be 100% spot on and could put yourself at risk of an overdose. Even common doses can provide a very difficult time for some, especially if you have a condition. But also combining this substance is very risky business. Opioids and stimulants may directly interact with Iboga and can easily put you in a dangerous state and/or overdose. Iboga hasn't been fully studied yet, so we don't know exactly how all the alkaloids work. We don't know all the areas of the brain and body that may be affected. Because of this, pretty much no drug use is recommended if you take Iboga. It is thought to have some effect on opioid receptors. Opiate withdrawal symptoms can lessen or completely go away after an Iboga experience. Its activity with opioid receptors is most likely responsible for this. Of course, it is thought to act on psychedelic serotonin receptors, but also on NMDA receptors, the common receptors that are targeted by the main dissociatives like ketamine or PCP. We see in this report that a sort of detachment was noted. All of this activity is thought to influence hallucinogenic effects, but also there may be activity on nicotinic, muscarinic, and sigma receptors. To say the least, the Iboga root bark has a roller coaster of activity going on, and the experience itself can very well be a roller coaster too. We're really just scratching the surface here with Iboga, as there's a lot of history we haven't even gotten into. Today's report shows Iboga could be effective in microdosing, specifically towards feelings of depression and mood. We see that it has been microdosed traditionally, but also it has been used as a prescription drug for that very reason as well, until restrictions came into place. Lamborine was a prescription that contained Ibogaine that was specifically given for fatigue and depression at one point. Because of its stimulant qualities, many athletes also used it, even Olympians. So I do think there is great potential with Iboga, but also great risk. There have been dozens of deaths from Iboga use alone, and even traditionally, tribes have also noted that this can happen. Given its complex profile, it isn't surprising, but to see if it's actually applicable, only more research and testing will tell. So we're going to leave it there for today. If you guys did enjoy this video on Iboga, want to see more on this substance or anything at all, let me know in the comments below and we can do that. If you have your own report you want to see, send it into the Patreon. You can fill out a form in the description or send it to NoOneSubmitReport@gmail.com. If you want to see that exclusive Iboga report or more exclusive reports as well every week, follow my Patreon, links below. And if you enjoyed this, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow the socials, share the video. It's been Someone That's No One, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
When I look up in the mirror, the man doesn't look back at me. Brother told me stop and breathe, but I was suffocating. I had to lose the art to finance myself from Haiti. My soul is so it's on my chest, the fire of Hades. Way too many ladies are trying to have death with babies. They see them on the come up like on LSD that made me. Notice I had something to give to shit, I spit that heat. I saw myself on stage in front of thousands that was saying lyrics of mine that I have never heard, but it was crazy. Now I'm gonna need the people all around the world to play the lost that he saved me. The demons are coming to take me. All of my angels are falling like scars, they flaking.